What's going on, everybody? Today is Wednesday, May 14th. We are recapping episode 12 of Survivor 48. It's the final six, the penultimate episode, and something finally happened. I don't know if we necessarily agree with it, but moves were made, and Shauheen is out the door, out of nowhere.
Yeah, I suppose I don't know if I'd say it's out of nowhere, but
Yeah.
something is better than nothing, I guess, even if that something doesn't make any sense. Like, I just do not understand the line of logic there that all right, in order to beat Joe, what we should it doesn't what we should do is not take out his number one ally who wouldn't see it coming at all. What we should do is take out an adversary that he eventually needs to get out that we can then say we fooled him and he's a lesser player because we fooled him to take out one of his own allies that he probably would have had to take out anyway.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
that is a much more convoluted way of arguing that you're a better survivor player than just taking out his ally.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of I honestly think pretty much everybody left in the game looked really bad tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think Mitch was neutral. He was down here and he stayed down
I
here.
think neutral is Mitch's ceiling.
Yeah, he
The kid, the
is.
best night of the season, neutral.
Yeah, because I mean, Joe looks dumb because he got played out his ass.
Yeah.
Uh Eva looks I mean, Eva, I don't know if Eva does anything
Mm,
really. I mean, it seems like every time that Joe tries to you see so many times throughout Survivor history, the two really good players who are aligned, they sit down and they powwow and they're bouncing ideas off each other. Eva just believes the first thing is told to her at all times, and it seems like she offers zero strategic input to Joe. Where Joe is like, "What are we gonna do?"
mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I'm with you, whatever you say." And that's just it. And like when she she had a great moment in tribal council where she was like, you know, she thought that people would take advantage of her not being able to tell when people are lying, and luckily that's not happening. And as it's happening, like she is such a bad player, and I mean Joe was made to look dumb tonight because I we got another weird edit of him is like the one in the challenge where it's like, hey, let's block out all the noise and just Joe,
Right. Yeah.
and I was like, okay, he has to be the winner. Like we're so seeing the
Yeah.
season through his eyes,
Yeah.
but then for him to get this edit of Kyle's talking, blocking out the noise is just looking at Kyle. Then Shauheen is talking, just blocking out the noise, just looking at Shauheen. I was like, surely if he wins, while he's getting this edit, he has to figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can't. This has to be like a victorious moment of like he's got to suss out the truth, and he doesn't, and he looks fucking he looks dumb because Kyle and Camilla ran circles around them, but then they look bad too because they probably should have took out Eva, and they've now waited so long that really nothing works because there's no scenario where they can tactfully or tactically
Mm-hmm.
get rid of Joe. They have to hope he loses immunities
Right. That's what
and
this is
Eva fucks up the idol.
exactly what we said last week was this is why the big move is at 7 because you get into this super end game and you're at the will of people winning or losing immunity challenges, people using their advantages. Like 7 is like the last number that in most cases you don't have to worry about that. Like usually are not down to one person that you just have to take out at 7. You usually have a couple options of ways that you can improve your game, so that way advantages and immunity wins don't necessarily screw you. They can in some cases if everything breaks the wrong way for you, but 7's a good number to take a shot for that reason because there's enough people left that those things don't aren't an end all be all. When you get into 6 and when you get into 5, if the people you're trying to take out have all the power in the game, they probably have advantages too because there's something to be said about having power and having advantages. Like there's a reason they're in that position that they're in, and when you're getting down to relying on them not using that or just straight up fooling them or hoping they don't win immunity, like that's why you lose the game. And like I said, it was just like a convoluted plan tonight that didn't make any sense. Like, no way in hell Eva plays her idol tonight if you go after her. Like, she would never
Yeah.
see it coming. Like, I don't understand why. And then you flush the idol so no one can play it next at 5 anyway. So I just genuinely don't understand. You're right. Like, Joe looks like an idiot, but he looks like less of an idiot because what Kyle and Camilla did didn't make sense. Like, they could have crippled his game like tonight, and they fucked up, so he doesn't look as bad. But I don't know. And yeah, that scene of him at Final Tribal where he's like looking back and forth, and it's so dramatic. Like, obviously he's not figuring anything out in that moment. Like, he made up his mind on what happened like earlier. They just edited it that way for cinematic
Yeah.
drama. But like, I don't know. Like, it did feel like there was a sense of like, I don't know, like I can't think of the word, like him coming to a conclusion there, and it was framed to be that he was going to be right. But I'm wondering if maybe he realized too late and didn't didn't want to throw like a weird vote in so he could catch them off guard next week or something. Where he like we get like a first scene next week where he's like, yeah, like Shaheen had to go eventually, so I just went with Kyle and Camilla to get him out, and I know what they're up to now, and yada yada yada. Eva still has her idol. We can do something there. I'm hoping because at this point I'm rooting for Joe to win. I think because at some point like no one's gonna do anything to get him out, and he's put himself in that position to win, and he deserves it. He's played a good game. It's not like he's played a bad game. It's just not the most exciting game. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that well, yeah, he has played the best game, and it is boring because he hasn't really made moves. But this is I think I compared him to JT before, and I'm standing by it more and more as it happens. Of like he's the guy that there's always one every season. He's the guy that doesn't have to do anything, and he will win. If he gets to the end, he will win, and other people have to betray him in order to get there, and it just worsens like their chances because they have to take out the guy that everybody likes, and it's like that's a chore in and of itself. And we've seen people go broke trying to do that before. We've seen people win the game by getting that person out. um, and now we're seeing Kyle and Camilla, I think, really play themselves out of like they're talking about how Camilla said that they've run the game to this point, and it's just simply not true. They've been in the best position to make a move the entire time, and they haven't done anything with
I
it.
mean, Camilla has effectively done nothing. Like,
Yeah, talk about wasted potential, dude. She was in the catbird seat, whatever you want to call it. She was the sniper in sniper position, looking at all the people down in the valley that she could take a shot at,
mm,
and she hasn't done anything.
hmm and
And she's like, I've been running people over this whole
yeah,
game. You haven't done
yeah,
anything.
that's what we said sitting on the couch. We were like, she's like, oh, and I'll back it up over him again. I'm like, you literally have done nothing. You have voted with the majority as someone who is publicly not in the alliance, but they are
Yeah.
just saying publicly that they are using you as a number, and you have this relationship with Kyle where he just tells you everything, and then you're like, you guys go off and you scheme, and then they're like, all right, the best decision for us right now is to do nothing. Camilla, you're just gonna vote with us, and we're gonna make the decisions. And she's like, all right, we're just gonna sit back and run this game.
Yeah, like I really enjoy her like
Yeah,
personality,
me too.
but it's a clash then because that kind of personality when you like she's taking a victory lap that's pretty much undeserved in my opinion. And yeah, I mean what have they done really? Nothing.
Yeah, like I said, you could probably Kyle can attribute some of the moves made as a group to him, but I don't think Camilla can really attribute anything to her game. Not like, I mean, it is a knock on her. It's a knock on her game that she hasn't really done much. Kyle at least has been in the conversation as a decision maker, I would say, or at least like coming to the conclusion as a group with everyone else. Like, but in the jury's eyes, like that's Joe. Like Joe claims those
Mm,
moves. You can like say as much as like, oh yeah, well I signed off on them or I took part in those conversations, but the jury still views them as Joe's moves, not Kyle's. I don't know what lens you would have to be looking through them for him to take ownership of those.
Yeah, and I is there's very interesting like both him and Shaheen the way that they view Joe is very interesting. Like Shaheen's Achilles heel is that he thinks that he played a bigger game than or a better game than Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And so he essentially thinks that he could go to the end next to Joe and win.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that that's true. However, that incorrect information was leading him to make the right moves all along. So he was like, I don't know that I can give a ton of credit to Shaheen, but he wasn't actively messing up. Kyle is such a losing finalist. This is a spoiler for our predictions, but Kyle's such a losing finalist and really especially a modern era losing finalist of just someone who has every opportunity to affect the game and change the inevitable outcome of them sitting there next to someone they can beat and they don't do anything about it.
Yep.
And I feel it feels really akin to Charlie from where it's like uh like Kenzie, you could say like he played a better game than Kenzie, but it's like Kenzie is the Joe, like very social, was included in a lot of moves, had a good relationship with a lot of people. And if you just like why are you turning a blind eye to that? Why are you just ignoring that and saying like, well, I played the better game, so I could just sit there at the end. Like, you cannot say the jury perceives this person as the best player, but I'll get there and change their mind. Like, no, they're adults. They don't want to be told, like, they're not going to let you mansplain to them why you're a better player. If it's close, you might change their mind. But if you know the perception is that you're going to lose, fucking change it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And they're really like I agree with you as a spoiler that Kyle's is such a losing finalist, but this season in particular, they're laying it on thick as like this guy really thinks that he's in the driver's seat and like he's gonna smoke whoever else it is at the end. And I think especially more than other seasons, like that's been Kyle's narrative since the merge, really, has been like we have this secret alliance and his I guess his takeaway is like I have more information than everyone else, but the information that I have is just that I'm in this alliance that we didn't do anything. So like he's
Right? Yeah.
he's like I'm the guy on the island with the most amount of information. Well, like I could say you could go out there and be oh, I'm hoarding coconuts down the beach, and like only I have the coconuts. I have the most information on this island. Like, yeah, but what does that have to do with winning the game? It's the same thing as like me and Camilla are in this alliance, but we're also just in the majority and gonna do what Joe says the whole time anyway. So like, do you really have
Right.
more information? No, not really.
Yeah, and I that's a great point because yeah, it reminds me a lot of I don't think he's gonna get no votes and be a zero vote finalist, but that is a thing that people point to and laugh at, or people point to and get laughed at for pointing to is like in the finals where people are like, tell me one thing that you did by yourselves. It's like, well, like at one point like I had this secret alliance with them and we did this move and no one knows how good of a thing we did and they were like who fucking cares, like you
Yeah,
didn't that didn't change the course of anything. And Kyle, he had this great confessional a couple weeks ago about small pushes winning the game, and I agree with that, and I said that I agreed with that at the time.
still do.
And
I
now
still
he
agree with it.
yeah, and now he's making me look stupid because I agreed with him and then he's like fucking it up. But it is true that when you have the most information like that, the subtle pushes to where you say, okay, I Joe knows all this. I know all this, and I'm going to use this little piece right here to slowly turn the tides in my favor. And he's known the information and he hasn't done the little pushes. It's
Yeah.
just
Like,
yeah.
say for instance, say they didn't have this secret alliance. That say they were aligned out in the open, or they weren't aligned at all. If they were aligned out in the open, I'm fairly confident that we would be in the same spot that we are now.
Yeah,
and
nothing
nothing
changes.
changes. And if they were not aligned at all, Camilla would just be gone, and it would be with somebody else there.
Right.
Yeah, like there's no difference in the game. So I don't understand. Like there's so much of the 90 minutes every week wrapped up in like Kyle and Camilla I don't know, fucking making out in the corner that like they don't they don't that they know more information than everybody and they're secretly running this game and it's so much time taken up that I'm like does one of them have to win? Because this is so ridiculous that we're seeing so much of this and have it not impact the game literally at all. I'm just surprised we see that much of it. Like usually like that is like, a confessional here or there. They talk about their alliance and we move on. Like it's a majority of like the strategy is talked about like that, which makes it me second guess what I'm feeling or what I'm reading in the edit. So like maybe there is something more to it.
Yeah. And well, I mean, so they are in despite it feeling like it's too little too late, just the end game mechanics of, fire and all that stuff, there it feels too late. But I mean technically Mitch is Mitch has been such a floater this whole time, but really Camilla's quote unquote perceived being left out of the votes or out of the alliance, which she like genuinely is left out. She's kind of been like bringing Mitch along almost. Like I think Mitch views Camilla as the only person that kind of gets him in this game at this point. And they do have a 3-2 advantage. The issue is if one of Joe or Eva wins the final 5 challenge, they are both in the final 4 cuz
Right.
Eva has that idol, which Eva not good at challenges. She's in the strong whatever alliance. She is terrible at
Yeah,
challenges.
very bad. The switch between the group dynamic or the group challenges and the individual challenges
Yeah.
has hit her hard. And like numbers wise, like if you're talking strictly numbers, no performance at all, like it's a 40% chance that they can't get out anyone. They have to take out someone in their own alliance. That Kyle, Mitch, and Camilla have to take out
Yeah.
one of them three. But like if you weight that for how good Joe is and how poor Eva is, it's still probably close to 40%.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
maybe
and the
more.
fact that she has the idol and there's no split anything you can do. It's if they play the idol on the right person, like say Kyle wins immunity,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to decide which of those two you're voting for, and Eva can just play the idol correctly.
You ready for this? She has safety without power. Why doesn't she give the idol to Joe and just play the safety without power?
She said at the beginning of this episode it expired
Oh, did
at the
it?
final 7.
Fuck, I
Yeah.
missed that. That'd
Yeah.
have been crazy. That'd have been something.
Yeah.
So she just has the idol left, or does she still have the
Just the
just
idol.
the idol? Because we were thinking she had something else too, but that is
Yeah,
not the
that was
case.
my mistake. Yeah, I
Um,
was wrong about that.
so she just has the idol. Yeah. So I mean, I mean, Mitch isn't very good either, and neither is Camilla. I guess they have a better shot than Eva, but like it's really Kyle versus Joe, in my opinion, for like most of this stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't know what's the final. The final 5 challenge is always a little different than the rest of the individual immunity challenges. So like, it's really probably anybody's game, but I don't know.
Yeah. Um Other things from this I did want to just say one comment I had about the reward challenge and actually being at the reward with the loved one visit. Um and it's there's a lot of emotional stuff with the letters, and Joe obviously has a pretty big episode on the emotional side of things, and
Hmm.
I think this is what Jeff was talking about when he said it was a great season.
Hmm.
Like he famously was saying, like 47, it was kind of like a cluster, but he was like, just wait until 48, like it's gonna be good, and
Hmm.
everyone's like, oh shit, like this is gonna be good, like we're
Hmm.
we're ready for this, and I think this is what he was talking about. Is I think he assumed everyone would fall in love with these players,
Right.
and I think people have to an extent, but I think there's a resentment towards their hero of Joe that just the game has been so stagnant. Which, if I can get on a soapbox for a second, the game is stagnant. Anyone who is complaining about, like, fuck Joe, fuck Shaheen, fuck Eva for, and people have been saying it about Kyle too, but Like, fuck this majority alliance, the strong whatever. Uh, they're just making the season boring. They're not playing the game. And dude, Camilla is like, I feel like the spirit animal of reality TV watchers, like the
Hmm.
people who have like stan Twitter accounts and stuff. It's like Camilla is like their person.
Yeah.
You have no one to blame but Kyle and Camilla for how this has gone. You have Joe, who is in the driver's seat. Making any move against his own people is a bad move. You can't blame him for doing that. Eva just kind of sucks at the game. She's along for the ride. There's people like that in every majority
Joe's number
alliance.
one, anyway.
Yeah, Joe's number one. It is what it is. Shauheen, I kind of get the argument for Shauheen because he definitely is like a thinker in the game, but I think that he correctly deduced that Joe was going like it took this harebrained scheme for Joe to turn on him. I think he wanted to go to the final four with Joe and probably try to send him on a fire, and worst case scenario, he thought he could beat Joe at the end. And you could say he's dumb for thinking that, but I don't think you could really blame him for not working against
I mean,
Joe.
he even said point blank this episode that he's like, why is my number one acting like this? Like,
Exactly.
Joe is his number
Yeah.
one ally.
He is they're the only two people left in the game, or I guess Kyle and Camilla, sorry, but at least from Joe's perspective, it's the only person Joe spent every day of the game on the same beach as.
Hmm.
And on top of that, they've been in alliance since day one. So it's not a crazy assumption by him. Kyle and Camilla are the ones that Kyle has an in. It's like my survivor dream is to be in a situation like this where you have one person in the majority and one person out of it. And the person in the majority feeds information to the person out of it so that the person out of it can make a move. They have the plausible deniability to then know, like, hey, okay, like Eva's planning to play the idol now, like in this way, the next one. And then you have the drop on him to get him again, fucking hit my mic, the vote after that. And they had that exact situation, and he didn't want to vote out Joe for whatever reason, and
For no
Camilla was
reason.
actively like, "We got to get Joe, we got to get Joe," and he's like, you can try, but I'm not going to help." And they've exhausted all of this. They've it's just nothing has happened.
Yeah. And that is just the complaint by everybody. Like, I don't know, Joe, not Joe, Jeff Probst, that is. Uh,
Mhm.
like like you said, big proponent of this season. They really like this season. They probably were thinking it was like what the fans have been asking for. It was a return to old school Survivor, right?
Mhm.
And I think Jeff looks at he's obviously a producer. He looks at the game in a different lens than the fans do. I think we talk about it a good bit in like the edit or whatever that he looks at it from like a cinematic standpoint, like how the character stories, how the people, not characters, correcting myself now,
There you go.
how the people's stories are told throughout their game of Survivor. Like, do they have a good arc? Do they like what is their redemption? Like, what's their story on the island? And from that aspect, like I can see why he would think the people would like Joe as the hero of the season. You know, like in a vacuum, like this guy's got a great story. He is leading the charge in an old school alliance that's staying true to like itself, and you know what I mean? Like in a vacuum, like that makes sense from a production standpoint to be like, yeah, the people are gonna love this. Like we should definitely promote this season as being like really good because that's what people have been asking for. That's what people like. This is a likable guy. He has a great story. Like, and it just didn't work out that way because nothing else happened. Like, that's I don't know. I think that's a good reminder that like not there's no one aspect of the game that makes Survivor interesting or makes it a good show. Like, it has to be dynamic on a lot of fronts, and sometimes like it just falls short. And I guess that's also an analogy for life, and that's the experiment on the island, right? Like sometimes it's not that interesting. Sometimes like it's pretty upfront and it is what it is. And Um, I don't know. I still don't mind this season. I think it's interesting to talk about. We have strong opinions about it. What even though it's not like the specific gameplay, like I've enjoyed watching the season. I don't think that's like the prevailing opinion online, but you can't please everybody.
Yeah. And I think that the disconnect is like Jeff is going to say, hey, old school season, you guys didn't like it. What do you want from us? We were right the whole time. And I think it's that people don't want the oversaturation of like advantages and lost votes and things like that because my opinion was like they've this season's been good on that. Like nothing's like crazy has like really gotten played honestly. Um other than Kyle and Camilla's idol early
Mhm.
on. Um but I really did not expect a player of like I thought Kyle and Camilla were pretty high caliber players for most of this season and I didn't expect two people who thought about the game in that way to sit on their hands in this way. That's really what's happened is I've always said that you don't need the idols to shake up the game because the players are going to do that for you. Like no one just sits there and lets themselves get steamrolled these days. Well, Kyle, Camilla, and Mitch do.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going
And
on
I think
right
that's
now.
fine. I've been on Camilla since probably the second episode of the season about there's something weird about her edit. And I think the edit is she could have won the game, but she just didn't do anything,
Yeah. Pretty
is the
much,
edit.
yeah, I think. Um that might be a good time to get into our predictions then for next
Okay.
time. Because next week is the finale. Um, I guess so. Can I go first?
Yeah, you can go
And
first.
and I want to work in my something we usually do at the end of the episode,
Chung chung.
the done chain. Because it is mine to give. Um, if I want to just recap that real quick, I've done Charity, Say, and David are all gone. I also have Mitch and Eva who are still in the game. You also have Mitch and Eva, and you have a slew of other compatriots who are now gone out of the game.
Yes.
Um, but you made it safe after all that just toiling.
Mm-hmm.
We get to a situation where I have to Dunchain one more person than you, and
Mm-hmm.
it feeds into my finale predictions. So I'm predicting a little bit of history next week, actually.
Okay. Predicting
Uh,
history. Nice.
yep. So at the final five, I have the immunity winner being Joe, and I think Eva is gonna play her idol, and feels like a Mitch spot to go home, but I actually believe Camilla is going to go home, and she is going to be my done chain.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that Joe and Eva are going to realize that they've been got. They think that Kyle was just looking out for them, and Kyle's been loyal to a fault to Joe to this point, and it seems like he's in Joe's mind. He's continued that trend. Um, and yeah, I just think that Camilla, like I do think this could be a rubber meets the road situation where I think Kyle might subtly try to let go of Camilla here. Either Joe targeting her and Kyle letting it happen, or even if Joe wants to get Mitch and Kyle's like, well, I probably want to shed Joe and Camilla, so maybe I just kind of let it happen to Camilla right now. He's been kind of in the position to do that to her all season.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that we could see it happen. He could be in his, which it would honestly be hilarious to me if this entire season he's like, I've got like I'm in the numbers here, but I've got Camilla inside, and she's my number one. Camilla, 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 Camilla. And then he actually goes to the end with the big group that he can't beat and cuts Camilla.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be the ultimate like head exploding what the fuck is going on decision.
Yeah.
Um so I think Camilla goes home. I have my final four immunity winner being Joe. And that's my history is I think Joe is going to break the record for most immunity wins in a season and get a sixth, um, which say what you will about Joe, that will be the most impressive thing about his game if he does it, because they have stressed strong people, um, like throughout this post merge. And yeah, they got rid of David, but there's other stiff competition here, and they're no slouches. There's some people who've dominated like pretty weak fields. I can't remember. I guess like Rachel, I kind of thought that of like who like nobody's even good at challenges when Rachel was winning all those, but um yeah, so I think Joe could win it. I could also definitely see Kyle winning this challenge and putting Joe in fire, because I have Joe taking Eva to the end, putting Mitch and Kyle in fire, and I have Kyle coming out on top of that. I could see Kyle winning the immunity and uh, sending Joe in against Mitch and Joe winning that as well. But my what I strongly believe is I think these people have settled into these roles very well. Of Eva, I'm very confident is the zero vote finalist, or maybe she gets one, I guess, but like she is the GOAT. She hasn't done anything. She's just kind of sat in the majority, and I know she has like the story and all that.
Most
Recent
zero vote.
Survivor history, nobody cares about that stuff
Mhm.
really anymore. Like I don't think, like Camilla said to Kyle, and Kyle was like, "Well, don't aren't you scared of sitting next to Mitch?" He's like, "I do not care. I can I can talk. I can beat Mitch. I'm not worried about that."
I feel like most zero
Um,
vote finalists nowadays do have a good story. Like that's part of
right.
their edit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I have Kyle second. Like I said earlier, I think that it's like a just a this whole season to me really has been why Kyle lost. I
Mhm.
mean, the he has coming into the night, he had the most confessionals of everyone left. I think he probably still does after tonight. I haven't looked yet. Um, and it's really a lot of stuff is told through Joe's eyes. Well, no, that's not, because I keep saying that it's told through Joe's eyes. Joe, we get the exclamation point like once a week of like Joe. Hey, look, it's Joe. He's the winner. Look at Joe. But the season really has been told through Kyle's eyes,
Mhm.
and it's been a lot of will he, won't he won't, and then it's will he, won't he win the game, he won't.
Mhm.
And there's Joe. Yeah, I mean this. He went on like a vision quest this episode where he has this whole like all this stuff with his sister, and then all this stuff trying to get to the bottom of who he can really trust. And even though he's wrong, he's just too far ahead. And I'm pretty confident here that Joe is going to be the winner.
Nice. Um, I have pretty much the exact same thing that you have, and I'm gonna tweak it slightly to give it some more dramatic flair. Marty, my goodness, you hear him yelling on my
Yeah.
mic, buddy. Um, I'm gonna tweak it a little bit to give it some dramatic flair. I also have Camilla going next, being voted out, but I don't. I have Kyle winning that immunity,
Ooh.
and him. We got the preview for next week where he we get I don't know if it's a confessional or he's like basically telling Camilla like I don't know if we can go like the whole way together. Like when can we like we might have to like cut each other out here. And
Hmm.
I think we're gonna get a confessional from Kyle where he says I just made this huge move to make Joe look like an idiot, made him take out one of his own allies based on information that we pulled out. I got this game in the bag, and if me and Camilla both get there at the end, we're just going to split votes, and whoever's in third is going to win anyway. And so I think he comes to the realization that he just has to vote Camilla out and that he can beat Joe because he made this move that doesn't make any sense. Just
I do like that.
perpetuating the it's really driving home the narrative that like Kyle, good player, like, but I guess not good. Like, can't I don't know, not good, good player, not good player. I don't know. Like,
Good player on the surface, but then when you think about it, you're like, wait,
yeah,
maybe not.
like when you think about it for any more than 5 seconds. Um, So I have Camilla going at the hand of Kyle.
Man, if Joe is open and he doesn't do it, Kyle might be all time like missed
Yeah.
opportunity, wasted potential guy.
I then have, and he maybe he also thinks I'll just send Joe into fire or whatever. I don't know. Then I have Joe winning the final four immunity,
Hmm.
bringing Eva, Kyle beating Mitch in fire in the same placements. Joe winning, Kyle in second, Eva in third. I would love if uh, Kyle or Mitch won that final immunity and put Joe and Eva into fire against each other. That would be sick. Diabolical. That'd be something I'd do. Just
Yeah,
put them against each other.
that's the other thing too is like I if Kyle wins the Final Four immunity, like I don't think he would even put himself in against Joe.
I don't think
I
so
think he
either.
thinks he can outtalk
I
Joe.
think he'd put Joe in there with probably Mitch and take Eva. I don't know. Like I said, it would be way more dramatic if he put Joe and Eva in there against each other. But I think that plays against his favor in with the jury. If he puts Joe and Eva against each other and Joe comes out taking out Eva and like being upset
Yeah.
about it, like I think that reads bad to the jury on that. So maybe he puts Joe in against Mitch and brings Eva along. I don't know. Eva's a, like in most other seasons, Eva's a pre-merge boot, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so.
But
She was really right place, right time, I think, at the
yeah,
beginning of the season.
for sure. So very similar to what you have. I'm gonna say Joe doesn't break the immunity record. That in a cruel twist of fate, Kyle thinks he can beat him and takes Camilla out.
Yeah, well, I do think it's very ironic that this whole season, we've had the strong five, the strong six, whatever. We've had this alliance of all of the big strong people, um, and everyone is kind of like it's this insurmountable thing that no one can beat, no one can permeate this, and uh, David is pretty much the only casualty of this early on, and now Shauhin goes obviously, but the theme of this season has been oh my God, all these big people, there's nothing we can do about it. And yet, I think Joe is being underestimated by everyone else around him.
Mhm.
Like, as we're talking through these scenarios, like, yeah, I think Shauhin was going to go to the end with him. And I think Shauhin thought he could beat him.
Mhm.
And to be honest, I don't know if Eva even cares about winning the game. I guess maybe she thinks that she could beat Joe, but I think she really just wants to sit next to Joe.
Yeah.
And I think Kyle would like to eliminate Joe, but if push came to shove, like he will not go into fire against Joe to get rid of Joe. He thinks that he can outtalk Joe. And I think Camilla is a realist about the fact that Joe is very dangerous, but she also seems like it will be peak fucking just incompetence if somehow her and Kyle are voting for each other next time. Even if Joe wins immunity, it's just like to say I don't know if we could sit next to each other. Buddy, it's too late. You have no other choice. You got to just sit there next to each other because you're probably going to have to eat one with this whole idol situation and then what? You got to one of you has to beat one of the other to a fire.
Yeah.
And it's just you fucked up,
I think
and that's all it
if
is.
you're Camilla, you could potentially vote for Kyle. I don't think in any scenario it makes sense for Kyle to vote for Camilla, but that's
Mm.
exactly what I had was going to happen, which is why I made it happen because what they do doesn't make any sense. Like I think it does make sense. Like if Kyle or if Camilla votes Kyle out and then beats Joe in fire, she will probably wins.
Wait, say that again.
If Camilla votes Kyle out next round and then beats Joe in fire, she probably wins.
Yeah, I don't think Camilla has the motor skills to make a fire. I'll be
I don't think
honest.
so either, but I think that would be like the one path that she would probably have. Like, I,
I think her best chance is if Kyle goes, then putting having Mitch beat Joe in fire. I think is the most
winning
likely.
immunity and having yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But all paths converge upon Kyle getting voted out.
yeah, which
Basically.
I
So
I don't
like
know that I think is going to happen.
she might need to do that, but Kyle like I don't think it really matters. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know how Joe has to go essentially, like for Kyle to win, but I just
Yeah.
don't see how it happens. I don't think that.
Well, I mean, yeah, going through these scenarios, this is why we said at the beginning, it makes zero sense to get rid of Shauhin because, yeah, Shauhin is a worthy adversary, and yeah, Camilla and Kyle, like you probably don't want to sit next to each other, but if you get rid of Eva now, Joe has to win out to sit at the end. And yeah, if he does, you're pretty much signing up for if we can't beat Joe, he at a challenge or something. If we can't eliminate him from the game, he will win
Mhm.
because then he has just that extra umph of like now he's an underdog right at the end. Um, so that there is that aspect of it, but I mean, you have to get to a point where if you're Kyle and Camilla, you get rid of Eva, all the everything's pointed at Joe. If he wins that final five immunity, then you got to stick together. You got to hope Mitch is down to get rid of Shauhin instead of one of you, and then you go back at it again at the final four. You try to get rid of Joe again. Like five is where you cut Shauhin if you have to. It didn't make any sense because you that idol at five. If they didn't have the idol, then I would actually be really fine with this because then Joe is he's either a sitting duck to get voted out, or if he wins immunity, then you at least get rid of Eva, and then, like I said, you got to beat him in a challenge. You have to beat him in a challenge at some point, so you might as well make it that if you beat him in the challenge, you'll win the game
Right.
rather than he gets to still make fire.
Yeah, exactly. I as you were explaining that, I have a weird take on Mitch, I think, here brewing.
Okay.
That he's like weirdly like if you were looking at this season as like literature, if you're analyzing
Okay.
the thematic nature of this
Mm-hmm.
season, I think Mitch is weirdly like like a prophet, like a prophetic character in that like he for what seems like the past three or four episodes has his entire edit has just been crying like I haven't done anything in this game. I haven't done anything in this game. I need to make a move in this game. And then like tries to do something like half-heartedly and then just ends up voting with the group anyway. anyway.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like
it is funny to call him a prophet because I think his whole game is a self fulfilling prophecy.
right. But
If I don't do anything, I'm fucked, and then he doesn't do anything, and he's fucked, and he's like, I was right.
like
I'm so smart.
in a weird way like he he is prophesizing like Kyle's fate. I think in that
Ooh, ooh,
he is the one that's like screaming from the rooftops like the British are coming, the British are coming, and like he's like nobody's doing anything. I'm not doing anything, and I need to do something to win this game. And Kyle just doesn't listen to him, and he's like
yeah,
every week he's hammering it that like I need to do something to win this game, and Kyle just like hears it but doesn't relate it to himself.
yeah. Kyle just says, "Oh, the British, that's me. Those are my guys.
Yeah,
Cool, here
we're
they
on the same
come."
team here. You know, we're the British. You know, we're not we're just
Yeah,
the colonies. So that's my Mitch is a prophet take, a Jesus like
yeah.
figure. Is
Camilla, yeah, Camilla is the colonies there, where she's like the alliance is Britain. She's like, I'm in it.
yeah
I'm there. I'm the colonies.
yeah. Who cares if we
I'm
have
annexed.
representation?
Yeah, she really is.
I know.
Fuck. This is falling into place here.
No, but like in literature, he would be a Christ like figure would be the official theme
Yeah.
of Mitch. But Camilla is is the colonies. It's just
This is a
keeps on
parallel
tapping.
universe with Kyle and Camilla where Joe he's from what, New York, right? This is
Yeah.
like the country of Guyana is getting annexed by Brooklyn. That's what we're watching right now. That's what's happening.
Yeah, it's just like I'm all for big government. Just keep taxing me. The British keep our streets safe. Like that's why our tax dollars are being felt here. They have a presence, and she doesn't. She's like I'm very anti-revolution right now.
Um last thing here. We did get another season 50 voting.
Yes.
Um, it's essentially, do you want idols? I took a screenshot of it because the wording is just hilarious. Where
I didn't really read the wording. Did I get lawyer?
it says, okay, your last big decision regarding gameplay. Idols are a big part of today's game and responsible for some of the most dynamic or dramatic moves in Survivor history. But for Survivor 50, you get to decide idols or no idols. And then, so that's already showing, that's already propaganda there. And then it says, no idols. I don't like idols. I want to take Survivor back to its roots. A very simple game where a reliable alliance was the single most important thing you could it was the single most important thing and you could take it all the way to the end. Or yes, idols. And the description is, are you serious? I love idols. They reward players who hustle. They can create uncertainty that can change the game at any moment. So I've been banging the drum against their propaganda,
This is
but for me,
propaganda.
yeah, you have to vote for idols. We don't want no idols.
Yes.
I I actually think the idols have been solid the last like 4 or 5 seasons. I think it's just the oversaturation of the advantages and the journeys and the losing the votes. That's where you kind of lose me. I think in my ideal season is two tribes. There's an idol on each beach, and there's an idol at the merged beach. And if you get to a situation where there are zero idols in the game and it's the final five or earlier, I would re-hide one,
Yeah. Agree.
and that's all you need.
Yeah, and that's I voted for idols as well. That's not what we're asking. We're not asking for no idols and no advantages. We're asking for it to be reasonable, and I think they have really come back to earth on the twists and the advantages. I'd like to see the journeys come back to earth a little bit. I still don't like the frequency of those, but um, as far as everything else, I think we're finding a nice medium. I haven't seen as much with all the complaining about this season. I haven't seen very much complaining about idols and advantages, which because this season's been good.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think one aspect that I really like about old school, like, because there used to just be one idol. It would be when they had and like Exile Island twists and stuff like that, like, and there's one idol.
Mhm.
And I do think it was kind of fun to be like, who has the idol? Like now it's there's an idol at every beach, and it's like, or you could go on a journey, and you could find idols in all these different ways, and you could just be Kyle and Camilla and walk up to Joe and be like, Shauheen has an idol, and it's like, huh, that's weird because Eva found our original one. I've been with Shauheen every day since then, and he's never found anything. So but it's plausible, right? Like in the old school Survivor, it's yeah, okay, this person's been to exile. That was a big thing in Gabon is like, I don't know, Sugar's incompetent, but she's gone to Exile Island every fucking time. She's got to have it, right? And she did have it. And it's like people strategize. It's like you give them a little more information to it's almost like trying to solve like the mystery of the season, or like it's a great one in Micronesia too, where like Ozzy inadvertently, I mean, he was always going to get fucked over by those girls, but he inadvertently fucks himself by being like, okay, I found the idol. Let me hide a fake one. And he's gone to Exile Island. Everyone's already like, he's probably got it. Like, it takes some skills to find the idol. He's probably got it. And then somebody finds his very obviously fake idol, and then everyone's like, all right, well, he obviously put that there. He definitely has the idol.
Yeah,
And then you can game plan against it. And it's like being able to figure that out based on clues that other people are inadvertently leading you. Like, that's a fun aspect of the game for me. Like, I don't need Exile Island, but I do think that's the one benefit of it is it's a great place to hide an idol pre-merge if you want to only have one idol in the game at a time. I think is like the best way to
yeah.
do it.
I think also there is something to be said about if you just have mystery, like utter mystery, like you'd have no idea how many idols there are, how many advantages there are in the game at any given time. There's no rule for a maximum or a minimum or anything. Like at some point, that's not interesting. It's just chaos.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no strategy because you're like, I can't strategize for this.
right,
I'm
everyone
never gonna know
everyone can have an
everything.
idol. Exactly. It's
Right.
much more like if you set the rules like you said, where there's only one in the game at a time, or there's one at each beach. Like you can deduce information, and that's what's interesting is seeing how players figure out based on limited information what they can deduce about everyone else because they know like okay, I know this person has one because they showed me. That means there's one other one, and based on X, Y, and Z, like either that hasn't been found or this person may have it. Like that's interesting. Not just like, oh well, like someone told me they have an idol and that's plausible because there's 1,000 idols. So
Right.
that could be the case.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's no
Yeah.
thinking there. So
Yeah. So I think that's really the discussion that needs to be had over idols. Not, hey, do you want them or no? Like obviously if it's binary, we want them. But
yeah.
okay, well, yeah, this is penultimate recap here. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you want to drop a follow or a sub, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube, we're on all those places. Um, on TikTok, I've had a couple TikToks doing well
Doing
recently,
nothing.
mostly like Survivor 50 stuff. I'm kind of concocting a new video series. It would be a massive undertaking for me
Okay.
trying to decide if I want to do it. I would do it like probably right after the season ends. I would start it, I think. Um, so stay on lookout for that. I think I am going to do it, but it's gonna be something. Um, and then yeah, we got to figure out for next week. We'll do a little behind the scenes because you're going to be on a little trip next week.
Vacation.
Yeah. So we'll have to figure
I won't
something
even be
out
able to
for
watch it live.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to figure something out for. I mean, luckily, I think it's straightforward as it gets. So you could probably just hop on here and talk about it without even saying it.
Yeah. I
Honestly,
know
we'll just talk
exactly what
about.
happened.
We'll just do this episode again. I think. Um,
Yeah. We'll
but yeah,
run it
we'll
back.
figure something out behind the scenes. We'll have something at some point. So
Yeah.
there you go. You got anything else there?
I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, and I got engaged last week. There you
Yes.
go.
Congrats. Congrats from around the room, around the world.
Just sliding that one in right
Do
at
we
the
only
end.
have
So,
American listeners? Do we get feedback on that?
I can see it if I look like once a year to be like, I wonder where we're. It'll be like 2% in like Bulgaria, and I'm like, all right, that's not real. But
Shout out to all the Bulgarians out there listening to us. Talk
yeah,
about
shut.
American survival.
There you go. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you all next time.